That is a stunning piece of wood. I would have never thought in a million years that that would have ended up coming out. Don't even see it very well because it's so shiny, the light's reflecting off of it. But I took that bit. So this is the project. I'm calling it my prehistoric bowl, as you can see from the title. The reason being is because it's old, chunky and rough around the edges, just like me. So, sticky and horrible. So yes, so yeah, nothing else to say really. It's failed. No good. So I'll see you guys next week. Fresh new project, one that works. And take care. Speak to you soon, and bye for now. Hello and welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all well, and thank you very much for coming over and joining us for another Sunday Lunchtime Live. As you may be able to tell, we're not live today because Nick and I are kid free. We decided that we would go out for the day, but I wanted to get a video up for you guys for hashtag week, so here it is. So hashtag week this month is a coloured bowl. We've visited this before, had a good response before, so I thought we'd get in there and have another go. It's nice to see everybody's thinking patterns to see how they come up with a coloured piece. Now, as always, it's down to your interpretation. It can be coloured on the outside, coloured on the inside, just on the rim, or a fin or a bead around the bowl. Totally up to you how you want to colour it. You can use oil base, acrylic, spirit stains, whatever colour you want to use. An old rattle can if that's what you want to use, but it's down to you and it's your imagination. Okay, so as long as it's got a bit of colour in it, it's classed as a coloured bowl. So I have on the lathe a piece of ash between 6.5 and 7 inches in diameter, about 2 inches deep. I'm going to turn this into a basic bowl shape. Not 100% sure where I'm going to colour the inside or the outside yet, but it's going to have some sort of colour on it. That is what it's all about, adding some sort of colour. Keeping it traditional if you want to, but add just a little bit of colour just to break it up a little bit and make it a coloured bowl. So as always, if you can send over your photographs to me at skkrafts@btnet.com before 2 weeks Friday from today, there will be a date in the description, and then I will get a montage up for that Sunday lunchtime live, and I look forward to seeing all your pieces. You guys always send some nice inspirational pieces, and I'm hoping we can carry that momentum on. So this is this month's hashtag week stroke 2 weeks. It's coloured bowl. Right, so I'm going to get onto the lathe. I'm going to start turning this piece, and then we'll see what we come up with. Right, so here we have a piece of ash, about 6.5 inches across by around about 45-50 millimeters in deep. I've already faced the bottom of it off, and we're going to put our mortise in the bottom, and then we're going to obviously then shape our piece. Now normally I'd put a tenon on the bottom of this, but because it's only a small piece, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to leave the mortise in the bottom of it. So the first thing we need to do is, because we've already flattened it off, is we need to find our centre. So let's bring our tool rest round and find our centre. So there's our centre. So we're going to bring in our gouge buddy. These are now available on the website. So with the gouge buddy, you've got this side that does the SC2 chuck, and then this side does the SC3 chuck. As you can see, we've got 54mm mortise for the SC3 and 4, and then a 46mm tenon. We're using the mortise, so you've got 3 marks on the mortise. We want to line up with the middle mark, and then we're going to mark our outer edge. The reason we've got 2 lines is because once you cut your mortise, you can then come back and just double check, make sure you got the correct size. If you're slightly over, it's not a big issue. It's not the optimum gripping capacity, but it's not a big issue. If it's slightly under, the jaws might not close up enough to get it inside to open up again. So you need to be as critical or as close as you can get it. So we're going to mark that. So that's our mortise. Actually, that's a big mortise for a little bowl. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the SC2 jaws, I think, or the SC2 chuck. So I'm using the SC4 at the moment, so we'll use the SC2. So SC2, only a 42mm mortise for an SC2, so we're still going to use the mortise, but we're going to come in there. So we'll mark that one again. So that's gives us much smaller mortise, and it's going to give us a much neater little foot on the bottom of it rather than a great big foot for a little tiny bowl. So we're going to come in with our parting tool, move back a little bit, and we're going to create a line next to our line where we want our mortise to be. Like I said before, you can be slightly over, 0.5 millimetre over, not a problem. Millimetre under, may not go over your jaws. So be as critical as you can. So parting tool next to that line. Gonna cut 2.5-3 millimetre mortise. Don't want to be too deep. Then we're going to bring back our bowl gouge and just cut this out. What we're going to do is just going to bring a skew in just to flatten that bottom off. But because we need to raise our tool rest a little bit, so we're going to bring in a skew just to flatten that bottom off. So, and what we're going to do is going to put a little tiny dovetail on, not a lot, only whatever the angle of the skew is. We're going to run it on that line and just run on the edge here, and that'll just give us a nice little dovetail in there. So now we need to mark where we're going to put our foot. So we want our foot, we want a pretty decent size foot. We don't want a little skinny foot because the bowl could rock a little bit. So we're going to bring our foot out here somewhere. Give us a decent size. Now what you don't want to do is you don't want the foot doesn't want to be as deep as the mortise. If the foot is as deep as the mortise, when you're grabbing, because obviously you're using expanding jaws because you're using a mortise, that's an expansion clamping point. If the foot is as deep as the mortise, then you're only grabbing on the little thin rim of wood that is left on there. If the mortise is deeper than the foot, the rim of your foot, or your line of your foot, should I say, you're actually grabbing on the actual bowl blank, the whole blank, or the actual bottom of the blank, rather than just that little piece of wood in there. So we don't want to be very deep, we only want to go in just a little bit. So around about that, maybe a millimetre. So now we can start shaping our bowl. So we're going to bring our bowl gouge back in, and we're going to start doing pulling cuts. So what we need to do is we need to start from the inside and gradually move our pull cut around. Now we're going to use this part of the blade as a slicing action. If you come in with your handle upright, flat, like it is now, it's a scraping action. We don't want that, we want a slicing action. So we want a handle low, and we want the wood to come round and slice into the blank like that. That's a slicing action. If we had it so our tool handle was up like that and like that, that's a scraping action. And we don't want that, because that's just going to give us lots of tear out. We want a nice cutting action. So handle low, we're using this part of the blade here, and it's the wood's coming down and slicing over the top of that. So we'll go to an overhead. So you should see handle low, and we're going to start taking this corner off. Nice steady passes. Gradually start working our way back. And what we're looking for when we finish is a nice, graceful, continuous curve. Keeping our tool rest as close to our piece as we can keep it. At the moment, we're just removing materials. So now I'm up to my shoulder of my rim. I'm using the nose of the tool. I'm using the nose of the tool just to nudge up against my rim. So that gives me a nice line to start pulling my bowl around. So if we come back into here, you can see my gouge is coming into the edge of the rim. Wherever the bevel points is where it's going to go. So it's going in nice and straight, and then I'm going to come in, I'm just going to gradually move my gouge around to start creating my bowl shape. So nose of the tool in there, gives me a nice neat cut, and then I'm going to gradually bring my tool around to do my cuts. So we're gradually bringing this in. And we want a nice graceful curve from here all the way around to the outer edge of our bowl. So we're just going to do our little final pass. What I'm doing now is I'm closing the face of the tool, keeping my handle low, but I'm just using it like a shear cut. It's giving me these nice fine little whispers coming off, and it should just hone up my edge and give me that nice smooth finish. There's a hard piece in there, I can feel it as I'm coming over it. It's making the tool jump a little bit, so I'm hoping that we can just ride over it with this nice, as you can see, look, nice fine whispery bits coming through there. So we just do another one. So we'll see what I like. Like I say, with ash, you can sometimes get a bit of tear out. It's not too, oh, we've got a little bit in there, but we can get rid of that when we're sanding. So we've got a little foot. Let's go back onto this camera. So we've got a little foot, we've got a nice continuous curve around it, got a nice shape. So we're actually ready to sand now. So what we're going to do is we're going to sand this up to 400 grit. And then before I go any further, I'll decide whether I'm going to stain the outside or just wax the outside. But I'll decide that when I'm sanding. So let's just get it quickly sanded up, and we'll go from there. So I'm just checking, make sure I got that bit of tear out. There's a little bit on one of the edges here, so I'm just double checking. Using your lowest grit is, you mean normally I do 120, because I had that little bit of tear out, I went to 80 grit. So use the 80 grit to get rid of any imperfections, or your lowest grit to get rid of any imperfections. And then as you go up your grits, its design and purpose for that grit is to remove the scratch marks from the grit below it. So that's what you want to do. So like I say, you need to make sure once you've done your first grit, you've got a real good finish. Because if not, when you get up to 400 grit, you're still going to see the tear out. So we're just going to make sure we got rid of that, which I think we have. So I'm just going to do a little bit in the middle there just to clean that out. So we've got a little tiny foot in there, so we're going to have to tuck our pad in half. Now we don't want to be touching this edge here because we know that's perfectly round, and if we go and alter that, it could knock it off being round, and when you flip your bowl over, you could end up with a little bit of vibration in it, and we don't want that. We want that nice and round. So we're not really going to touch that. So now we can just quickly go up through our other grits, because we know now that there's a perfect finish. So we're just going to go up for our grits to remove the scratch marks from the grit below. So we're just going to final bit. So that's all sanded up now to 400 grit. So what we can do is now I'm just going to put a couple of little lines in the bottom there just to make it look like we actually thought about the mortise a little bit more decorative, and it just makes it look like, you know, you've actually thought about what you're going to do, rather than just leaving it plain in the bottom there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in with a skew, just a little skew, and we're just going to put a few little bead lines in there just to give us that little bit of pattern. So basically, it's a bit high now. So basically one in the middle, and then just gradually come out. Now nice and gentle, because you don't want any tear out. And you can put them as deep or as harsh as you like. And we'll put a couple in here as well, just to look like we actually thought about it. So that's it, just some simple little lines. We're just going to check it, actually make them a little bit heavier. A bit better. Hang on a minute. Weren't quite heavy enough. So there we go. So what we're going to do is just going to get a bit of 400 grit and just run over that. They should be fine, but we're just going to run over it just so if there's any furry bits, that should just pull them off. Don't rub over them too much because you will obviously reduce the height of the bits. Right, so now you're ready. So now you're ready to do whatever you want. If you want to colour it now, it's great, colour it. If you want to leave it natural, leave it natural. Totally up to you. You could put a couple of bead lines in the side here. If you wanted to, you could put a couple of bead lines in the side here. Just colour that one band round. It's a coloured bowl. If you want to, you could colour the whole piece. It's a coloured bowl. I'm going to actually do the bottom natural, I think. And then I'm going to actually colour the inside for something different. So with that, saying that, let's get some sand and sealer, because we're now ready to seal that. Get some sand and sealer and seal it all up, and then we can wax it off and get a nice shine finish on it. So I've got here some cellulose sand and sealer. Make sure you give it a good shake if it's been stood a while, because if not, all the sediment will drop to the bottom. So we want to give this a nice couple of coats, because it's an ash. It's going to be quite porous in places. So you're going to have these bits here are going to be quite porous. This bit here is not going to be so porous. So this bit here, where the end grain is really going to soak in the sand and sealer. This bit here is not going to need so much, but we need to give it equal coats to obviously get an equal finish on it. So let's get a bit of sand and sealer on it, and we're just going to give it a couple of nice even coats, being generous but not swamping it. You're better off with 2 to 3 light coats than 1 thick heavy coat, because you'll just flood it and you'll end up with marks on it and you'll struggle to get the sand and sealer marks out of it. So let's just do the middle, make sure we get it all sealed, make sure we get right into where the recess is, making sure we get it right in where the grooves are on our pattern. So we're going to just let that dry for a few seconds. It's dry now, it's dry virtually instant, and then we're going to give it another coat. So again, we're going to give it a nice even coat, and you will notice that as you build up the coats, you'll end up with a continuous sheen on your whole piece. So that's 2 coats. So we're just going to leave that for a few seconds to dry off, and then we'll see how that looks by just burnishing it a little bit. If we've got a continuous sheen on the whole piece all the way around it, happy days. If not, we'll just go back and give it one more coat. So I'm just going to grab a few shavings. I'm just going to burnish this off. So what we're looking for now is a continuous sheen on it, and we've got dull spots we need to assess, or where we've got dull spots we need to, you know, add another bit more sand and sealer. Got a little bit of a dull spot there where the end grain is, it's nice and sheen there, and again we've got there, so I'm just going to give that one more coat. Bless you. So just one more coat. Again, nice thin coat, it's not heavy. Don't need to soak it. And that should be enough sand and sealer. We're just going to let that dry off. We're just going to burnish. This time we're going to use a piece of non-woven pad just to burnish that off. That just knocks back any grain that might have swollen while putting on the sand and sealer. Let's just knock that back gently, so we've got a nice finish on there now. So what we want to do now is just put a nice coat of wax on it to give us a nice shine. So I'm going to be using Hampshire Sheen high gloss wax. So apply liberal. You don't need lots of it. You just need a minimum coat. You only need a little tiny piece. Less is more, as they say. So as you can see, got hardly any on there. So we're going to put on a coat all the way around it, and as always, you're better off with 2 or 3 light coats than you are 1 thick coat. If you get a thick coat in where you've got your texture in or your grooves in here, what will happen is you'll end up with loads of dried white wax inside the texture and it'll look awful. So you're better off putting a couple of light coats on so you gradually build up the layers, and then you don't get loads slard in those little grooves. So once it's dry, bring a tissue, just gently rub our tissue on it. Like so. And then we're going to give it another coat. Again, a light coat, don't need to be a heavy coat. So you can leave it a few minutes if you want, but as long as when it starts to grab, you know the solvents are evaporating, so it should be ready to go. Don't push too hard with your tissue, because all you'll do is you'll burnish off the wax you've just put on. So it's just gently laying the tissue over it and just moving it about to bring up that nice sheen. The more coats you put on, the deeper the shine you should be able to achieve. So you can see there, the shine is starting to come. Safety cloth just to burnish that off, just a little bit softer than tissue. The same principle. And there you have a nice finish on your piece. So not a massive shine, but enough. You don't want always glorious big deep shines, but there's enough there to give you a nice finish. Nice and smooth, which is an added bonus. So we're going to take this bowl out of here now. Now remember, we did this mortise for our SC2 chuck. So we're going to bring in our SC2 chuck now. One thing I did notice, just got a little bit of tissue paper stuck in that groove in the bottom there. Just get the air gun and blow that out. That's it. It's out now. A little bit of tissue paper stuck in there. So the bottom's natural, all done. So let's get over and start hogging out the middle, and we can decide what we're going to do with the middle. So the first thing I'm going to do is clean these jaws, because you can see I've got paint and wax all slard on these jaws. Now they could make that run out of true. Might only be a few micrometers, but it could be enough to knock that out of true. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to get some cellulose thinners and clean those jaws up, and then we're good with we're starting off on the right foot. Now my jaws are all nice and clean, we shouldn't have any problems. So we're just going to nip these up and clamp up on our piece. So we know this front is out of square anyway, but as long as the bowl is good, we should be good to go. So as you can see here, this is running nice and true. You can see this is running nice and true here. Got a little bit of wobble in here. Well, we know that because we know the front of the face of the wood is not flat anyway. So we are good to go. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to flatten off our front. So we're going to bring back in our 3/8 bowl gouge. And we're going to start flattening off the front of our work. So again, handle low, pull cuts to clean off that edge. So you'll know when you've got it flat because you can feel it through the tool. And you can see there we've got a nice flat finish. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do one push cut all the way through. And that'll give me my edge. So we'll get a good finish on that. So we know now we've got a good edge. If you pull cut through, you can splinter the edge up here, but we know we've got a good edge there now. So what we're going to do is we're going to start taking the middle of this out, and then we can decide how far or how thin we're going to have it. I'm not going to go really thin, but we're going to do enough so we've got a good edge. So picking up my cut, gradually using the bowl gouge to take out the middle. It's all rested a little bit too low, so just lift up a little tiny bit. So coming in, going to pick up my cut, nice little tram line. Bring the handle round slowly. Let the gouge do all the work. And as I come to the middle, then just gently open the face of the tool a little bit. And then ease off the pressure and pop that middle out the middle. I'm just going to sharpen this gouge because I believe it's not the sharpest. And then we will come back and just finish that off. Alright, nice sharp tool. Let's go for it. So pick up my cut. So what I'm looking for a continuous thickness all the way around. If I can get continuous thickness from this stage, then all I need to do is worry about taking the same thickness of cut all the way around, which I can view as I'm going around. So it's a little bit thicker in the bottom. So we're going to pick up the cut in the bottom here and just take a little bit more out of the bottom there. So now it's fairly equal all the way around there now. So all I need to do now is when I'm bringing in my cut, if I'm cutting 3mm here, I need to follow that 3mm all the way around. That should give me the same thickness all the way around. So I'm going to pick up my cut again. Now all I need to do, see, we've got this gap here. All I need to do is continue that gap all the way around, and that should be the same thickness all the way around. So I'm watching that gap, and I'm keeping that gap all the same as I go all the way around. And that should stay the same thickness all the way around, which is what we want. So remember, you got your mortise in the bottom, so you don't want to be going too thin in the bottom there. You want a nice even gap all the way around. It's a little bit thick there to there to there, so we just got a little bit there. But I'm going to remove that with a scraper, I think. Well, no, actually, let's move with a gouge. So I'm going to pick up the cut here. I'm just going to remove that little bit there, and just feather it out. That's better, much better. That's better. So now we've got that. So now we need to decide what we're going to do with this rim. I think I'm going to slope that rim in a little tiny bit. So we're just going to bring our gouge back, and I'm just going to put a little tiny bit of a slope on that. Just so it looks like it's feathering into the bowl. Like that, and I think that is about as much as I'm going to go. I'm not going to go thin, don't need to be thin. Don't get any extra brownie points for having it thin, and you don't make yourself a hero. So make a bowl a decent thickness so you can use it. So what we're ready to do now is we're ready to sand it up. So I'm going to sand that, and then we'll decide what we're going to do with the inside. So I'm going to be sanding this with the drill. It's much easier, just swoop it out. Remember, as always, if you want to keep that nice crisp line there, don't take the sanding disc past that line there, because you will lose that around over. I will lose the sharp edge here, but I want to keep that one there. So again, there's a rolling motion, go from the inside to the outside, like so. And we're using the first skip to rid of the imperfections. Exactly the same principle as the outside. I'm just going to lose that sharp edge on there. So we're going to check it. Well, there's a bit of tear up, that's not the way the grain is. So just a little bit more on there, I think. That's it. So now we can go up for our grits and get it sanded. Right, so that's all the sanding done, up to 400 grit. It should give us a nice finish. So when you're sanding ash, don't push too hard, because what happens is you'll take away the soft grain quicker than take away the hard grain. You'll end up with real bumps and humps in it. Well, sometimes you can't help it, but if you're gentle, you shouldn't get it. Right, so what we're going to do now is we're just going to colour that. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do like a yellow into a orange into a red, and then bring it up to this outer line here, and then just see how it goes. Just more of a sunset look in the middle. So I'm going to get the airbrush out, and then we will bring the intrinsics in, and then we'll see what we can get, what effect we can get doing that. Because I'm airbrushing it, if I don't like it, it's not a heavy coat, so I can always take it back, so it's not a major issue, but hopefully we'll put it on and we'll like it. So let's get some gloves. So we want to make sure all the dust is out of the grain. And these are going to be light coats, real light coats. Don't need to be heavy, want to be a nice light dust. So we need to set our air gun so we're just getting a little bit of dusting coming through it, no heavy thick colour. And it's about building up the layers. So the first colour I'm going to go for is honey. Flame, black, honey. So I'm going to turn the gun down so I get a bare minimum come out, which is like that. I'm going to turn the lathe on low. And I'm going to go from the middle, I'm going to work my way out. And I'm going to go past where I want it. The reason being is I can bring the other colour over it. So we're going to start off and bring it out. So we're just going to let that dry. We'll bring a hot air gun just to assist it to dry. When you're lukewarm air, you don't need to be hot. Now these will swell the grain a little tiny bit, so you're going to have to knock them back a little bit with a bit of Scotch-Brite or some soft shavings. So we're just going to give that another coat of yellow, just to, you'll find that giving it a couple of coats will make the colour just that little bit richer. That's quite a bright yellow, that shouldn't look like that on the picture. Let's just see if I can alter that, because that shouldn't look that yellow. It should look more of a honey yellow rather than a yellow. That's more like it. That's how it should look. It was looking too yellow, it was. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go up to our, we've got two reds in the intrinsics. We've got flame and ruby. Now I'm going to bring in a little bit of burnt orange, I think. Not a lot, just a little tiny bit. Because there's a nice transaction between the red and the yellow. So what I'm going to do is now, I'm going to come in from this way. Then when I get to where I want to be, I'm going to pull my gun away to give me more of a pebble dash dusting. So I'm going to come in here, which is my colour, and I'm going to pull it away like that. So put it away. And what that does is it gives me that nice gradual yellow to orange colour. So you've still got that bit of yellow in the middle there, but you've got that dusting of the orange. So that's enough of that. Don't want too much orange. So the next colour we're going to go to is flame. This isn't a very big piece, so you're not going to get a massive amount of colour on it. We're going to do exactly the same with the flame as we come in over the burnt orange. Going to bring it away. I'm not worried about it here because I can just sand that a little bit off the edge there. So you can start to see where that's gradually fading from red to orange into the yellow, or honey, should I say. Actually, it won't be nice if we did a bit of ruby on this edge of rim, would it? Just take the flame over the rim and then into ruby. That might be a cool effect. So we're not going to get it too wet. If we get it too wet, then the colours will start to run. So we're going to let that dry. So it's dry. So now we can just make sure we bring our flame back. Just put another little bit of flame in there. Like so. So we can get rid of that now, and then we can bring in our ruby, which is our darker red. We're just going to bring that on that edge there. Don't really see a lot of difference in the transaction between the ruby and the... Just remember, we're only putting real fine coats over it, so you won't see a great deal of transition, shall I say. So that's that. So we're just going to let that dry. So if you spray across it like this, where we've got that little rounded edge, the colour won't go around that corner, it'll just blow straight past that corner. So if you're going to colour and you want to do this effect, then always blow across your piece like that, because it won't go round onto your wax side. If it does go around a little tiny bit, don't worry about it, just get a bit of cloth and a bit of wax on it, and that should bring all the pigment, because the colour can't get into the timber because obviously it's waxed and sealed, so it shouldn't be an issue. But like I say, blow across and you should end up with that nice neat transition line across there. So let's just give that one more bit of ruby. Like so. And that'll do. Just clean our gun out. Always make sure you clean your gun out when you're finished, even if you just flush water through it. I only flush water through in between coats or when I'm finishing, and then every now and again I'll strip the guns down and make sure that they're all cleaned out properly, because if not, if you get a bit of pigment in them, what will happen is they will start to clog up, and then they'll start spitting and coughing and they won't work properly. So that's all nice and cleaned out. So we just need to make sure we dry this correctly before we sand and seal it. I'm just going to dry it off, make sure it's all nice and dry. Right, so that's all nice and dry. So what we need to do now is we need to give that a coat of sand and sealer to obviously seal those colours in. Now if you use wipe on sand and sealer, you're going to move all those colours about. If that's the style you want, then you know you're quite. If that's how you want it to be, then it's your call. But I want to see the colours stay like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use a coat of spray sand and sealer, so my colours actually stay the way they are. So this is chestnut cellulose sand and sealer. Not a lot in here, so I just want to use this can up really. And I'm just going to blow it away. Be careful, because if not you're going to end up with a pool of it in the middle. So again, it's just light coats. And you'll see the colours start to change a little bit once you get the sand and sealer on it. And again, you're just blowing it across your piece, just to see that we're going to let it dry off a little bit. May have to give it 2 or 3 coats like we did the outside, because obviously it's the same material, it's a little bit porous. So we're going to let that dry, and then we'll come back and we'll see if we need to give it another coat or not. So that's all dry now. I'm just going to give it a second coat. So that's now had 2 coats of sand and sealer and been knocked back with a Scotch-Brite. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a little bit of gold embellishing wax over that, just to bring out the grain. Because it's a piece of ash, we've obviously got this grain, soft and hard grain, and the soft grain is a bit lower. So with the embellishing wax, just enhance that lower grain and just make it look a little bit better. So what we're going to do is just rub this in. We don't want to get it over the rest of our bowl, we just want it over this bit. So we're just going to gently rub this around our bowl, work this in. And you can see that just enhances that soft, that lower grain. So that should be enough. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to bring in a clean piece of cloth or tissue, and we're just going to gently buff that up. Take my gloves off. I'm just going to buff this up. Now we need to remove all the excess embellishing wax to start with, and then we can just gently buff up to a gentle sheen. Now I don't think you'll get a shine on it, but not a real big, a good shine on it. But we're not here for that. We're here to, you know, fill that grain and just finish it off. So there you can see we've just got that grain filled in, which just gives it a nice little effect. So what we'll do is we'll get that out and have a look at it. So there you go, nice little coloured honey into burnt orange, into flame red, into a bit of ruby red on the edge. So just gradually got that staging in, so it's like darker to lighter. Can't really see the effects of the feathering in between the 3 different colours there, because the bowl's not really big enough. If it had been a bigger bowl, you could have got a bit more feather line and you could have done it, but the idea is there. So, and just plain simple bowl on the outside, so something a bit different. Normally I'd colour the back and then leave the inside normal, natural, but this time we've gone in reverse. So there we go. So there we go. There's my coloured, hashtag coloured bowl. Just got that little bit of a rim, so it's just got like a little slope into the bowl. We feathered over with the ruby red on the rim, then we went to flame red, then we went to burnt orange, and then honey on the inside. It's actually more shiny than what I thought it would be, with those couple of coats of sand and sealer. Just burnished off, and then obviously the wax over the top of it. Natural on the back, so we've got the 2 contrasts of the wood and the colour. Normally I'd colour the back, but it's something different with just doing the inside. So anyway guys, that's my interpretation of a coloured bowl. I look forward to seeing what you come up with. Like I said, any colours, any texturing, any whatever you want to do, it's totally up to you. Look forward to seeing. Please send them to skkrafts@btinternet.com. I will get a montage up for the Sunday. It'll be 2 weeks from today, the montage. So get your photographs over to me, and I look forward to seeing what you come up with. So anyway, guys, thanks for coming over and watching. Hope you've enjoyed. If you have, smash that thumbs up and share button, and I will see you guys on the next one. So anyway, guys, take care, speak to you soon, and bye for now.